Good evening, everyone. It's good to see so many smiling faces. My name is Guion Foreman, and I am the president of the Chicago Police Board, and I am calling the board's January 20th public meeting to order. To protect the public's health in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is taking place remotely. Pursuant to the Illinois Open Meetings Act, I have determined that holding this meeting in person is not practical or prudent. The city of Chicago remains subject to the governor's disaster proclamation due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the disease continues to be a threat, especially to the unvaccinated and people with certain health conditions. We're therefore having the meeting remotely this month. The meeting is open to the public via audio and video conference and is being carried live by CAN TV. Members of the public are on mute in order to reduce background noise and disruptions. We also have a court reporter making a transcript of this meeting. In addition to police board members, we have several city officials here with us this evening. I will begin by taking attendance so it is clear who is participating in this meeting. Please say here after I read your name. Police Board Vice President Paula Wolf.
Here, and none of you look the way I imagined you were going to look.
Police Board Member Stephen Block.
Here.
Board Member Mariley Cusack.
Here.
Board Member Nanette Dooley.
Here.
Board Member Michael Eady. I think we're waiting for Reverend. Board Member Steve Flores.
Here.
Board Member Jorge Monte.
I think if we come up with issues like this, how would you feel about doing this?
Board Member Andrea Zopp. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Do an hour and a half and you.
Board Member Edie is here.
And Board Member Superintendent David Brown.
Here.
Interim Chief Administrator of the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, Andrea Kirsten.
Here.
Acting Deputy Inspector General for Public Safety, Nathaniel Wackman.
Here.
Acting Chief of the Chicago Police Department's Bureau of Internal Affairs, Yolanda Talley.
Here.
First Deputy Superintendent of Police, Eric Carter.
Here.
Chief of Chicago Police Department's Bureau of Patrol, Brian McDermott.
Here.
Chief of Chicago Police Department's Bureau of Detectives, Brendan Dinahan. General Counsel to the Superintendent, Dana O'Malley.
Here.
I also see Deputy Chief Muhammad. And Executive Director of the Police Board, Max Caprone.
Here.
We would like to welcome our newest police board member, Marilyn Cusack, to her very first meeting. The city council approved Mayor Lightfoot's appointment of Ms. Cusack last month. Ms. Cusack comes to the board with extensive experience in public service and is currently a senior vice president and general counsel at Ariel Investments. We will now proceed to the items on the meeting agenda. We will have time at the end of this meeting for public comments. Once again, members of the public are currently on mute in order to reduce background noise and disruptions. When we get to the public comment portion of the meeting, we will unmute each speaker. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the board's December 16th regular public meeting?
So moved, Paula Wolf.
Second, Michael Eady.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. The schedule for the board's monthly public meetings for 2022 have been set and are available on the board's website, Chicago Police Board, chicago.gov/police board. Our next public meeting will be held on Thursday, February 24th at 7:30 p.m. We generally have our meetings on the third Thursday, so I just want to make a special note that for February, it will be the fourth Thursday of the month. So February 24th at 7:30 p.m. Whether this will be an in-person meeting or remote, we will determine closer to the date. I'm guessing it's going to be remote. Is there a motion to close a series of executive sessions for the purposes of considering personnel matters and litigation as authorized by sections 2C, 1, 3, 4, and 11 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act?
I so move, Paula Wolf.
Second, Michael Eady.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. We are pleased to have with us this evening members of the University of Chicago Crime Lab who will give a presentation on the narcotics arrest diversion program.
Great. I think we're going to have Deputy Chief Rossetti start.
Okay, Deputy
And I
Chief.
have slides, if that's okay. Ashna, are you able to pull them up? Great.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Antoinette Rossetti, Deputy Chief of the Training and Support Group, and I'm going to give a little bit of a background and overview on our narcotics arrest diversion program before turning it over to our partners in this program with Thresholds and University of Chicago. Next slide, please. So in 2016, our department out of the Bureau of Organized Crime partnered with HIDA, that's the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Agency Program, and community healthcare provider Thresholds and Urban Labs to design, test, and scale a pilot that had started out of that section of the department, in which individuals who were being taken into custody for low levels of possession of narcotics were being directed to a substance use treatment counselor. And so in essence, this is a police-led drug deflection program that is seeking to offer substance use treatment to individuals in lieu of incarceration and going further through the criminal justice system. So out of that small pilot, in 2018, the department was able to work with our partners to implement it in the 11th district on the west side. And in the first 18 months of that pilot, the results had indicated that approximately 345 individuals who had been arrested within the boundaries of the 11th district with a controlled substance, again, that would be heroin or cocaine, 1 gram or less, were, instead of going further into the criminal justice system, were being diverted to a substance use treatment counselor with Thresholds. Next slide, please. And so to describe this program, when an officer does make an arrest and they realize that the individual meets the eligibility criteria, which I'll discuss briefly on the next slide, that officer is able to offer the arrestee the opportunity to connect with a substance use treatment counselor. And if that individual agrees, we are able to put them in touch with Thresholds, who you'll hear from briefly. And I think one other significant feature of this program that we're very pleased is in place is that this is not just a pathway for individuals who are arrested. We have an open door for individuals who would want to walk in and access this treatment without necessarily being taken into custody. So this program is available for individuals who are taken into custody for select narcotics offenses, as well as individuals who are seeking treatment and know that they can access it through the police department. Next slide, please. So I'll just give everyone a moment here to look at what the key eligibility criteria is. This is a program where if officers arrest an individual who's 18 years of age or older during the time that a counselor is available, you'll hear a little bit more from Thresholds, but the program operates from 3:30 and they typically are able to do intake up until 11. If an individual is arrested during that time for 1 gram or less of heroin or cocaine, or possession of drug paraphernalia or syringes or needles, the officer who makes that arrest is again able to redirect that individual to the substance use treatment counselor if they agree to that. Next slide, please. So before I again turn it over so our partners can share about all of their work, where we are as a department we're very pleased that we have a partner doing program evaluation. We feel like this is key for us in evaluating the effectiveness of the program. So ensuring that it's operating in all of our 22 police districts. This is a very important step for us in 2021. We were able to expand this citywide so that this program is available in all the districts. And we want to make sure that we're using our program evaluation to determine that it's operating the way it should, as well as opportunities where we can create additional pathways for access to this program. As we continue to develop the program, we know that it's going to be important to have refresher training. One of the things that has been really important in the success of this program is the partnership. And with the rollout for every one of these districts, it looked like partners from Urban Labs and Thresholds coming together with members from the Crisis Intervention Unit to deliver roll call training so everybody understood how to use this program. And it's going to be important to continue with the refresher training. And then last, the initiatives and partnerships that are in place to support what the goal here is, which again is to use every opportunity we can to redirect individuals to community resources when feasible, especially as it's an important step in their recovery, as much as us being able to put our resources on public safety. We want to continue to grow those initiatives and partnerships that support what we're trying to do with the narcotics arrest diversion program. That would look like our opioid overdose reversal program, where we have been training and equipping our officers to reverse overdoses when they encounter that. Right before I came in here, I looked to see, and in 2021, the data I was able to see indicates at least 60 times officers saved lives and reversed an overdose due to the training and equipment that's in place, as well as, again, our crisis intervention team program, which is a specialized program that ensures our department members receive training on signs and symptoms of mental and behavioral health conditions and how to best redirect and connect that individual to resources. And so our next steps look like growing those programs and ensuring they're in place to support this important one. Thank you for your time. I'm going to turn it over to our partners now.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Chief Rossetti, for being such an incredible partner. We're happy to take questions at the end. We just would love to get through the content here. I'm Rosanna Ander from the University of Chicago Crime Lab and the Education Lab. And I know that this is probably not news to many folks here, but while we have spent a lot of time, appropriately so, focusing on things like our homicide crisis, which we do have, not nearly enough attention has really been focused on the opioid and overdose crisis. We are going to have around, I think when all the numbers are said and done, in Cook County, about 1,000 homicides. We're going to have 2,000 overdose deaths. So double the number. Next slide, Ashna. I think historically the approach has been to this public health crisis, unfortunately asking our law enforcement partners to be on the front lines of this and use the tools that they have, which often lead to arrest and further penetration into the criminal justice system. This really has provided a unique partnership and opportunity to respond to the community's calls for a response to these open air drug markets that are sort of epicentered on the west side of our city, but to, instead of pulling people into the criminal justice system, those who qualify, as Deputy Chief said, are offered an opportunity to be diverted. And one thing that I'll say, we can do the next slide, Ashna. One thing that I would say is that the program that gets a lot of attention is the Seattle LEAD program, which is a really commendable officer-led diversion program. The program that has been stood up here in the city of Chicago is much larger than the Seattle LEAD program, diverting far more people, and it's also not requiring that individuals get charged with the offense. So it's pre-charge and it's voluntary for the individuals to decide whether or not they want to take up this opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. Our partners at Threshold really deserve tremendous credit. They jumped in with both feet when this opportunity was presented. I will say before there was any funding to support this work, because they wanted to, be a partner to try to help our city at a time of crisis. So I'm going to let, I think it's Dooley from Thresholds, talk about their critically important role in standing up and keeping this initiative going.
Thanks so much. We're just so pleased and honored. You say we jumped in, but who wouldn't be able to work with CPD The officers have been great at referring folks to us and also working with Crime Lab, University of Chicago, and having contributing to research so that we know that what we're doing is actually helping people. And so I look forward to that part of the presentation from them. So my name is Julie Skoke. I'm a nurse and a counselor. I'm the team leader for the Narcotics Arrest Diversion Program with CPD. And in a minute, I'd like Ann Brecky, our program directors for substance use treatment, to tell you more about thresholds as an organization and what else we provide. But here we are, as Deputy Chief for City said, we have a walk-in program in addition to our arrest diversion. And so just tonight, I'm over here in the beautiful 11th District, where we do see most of our folks. And we just saw a couple of people in the lobby. A lot of times people are coming in because they're experiencing homelessness, but there's also substance use going on. And so we're able to provide some referrals for them. We refer also our folks that come through for the arrest diversion. We meet with them in the little interview room behind the glass. And so we make a connection with people. We're able to, it's a bad day for them. It's a tough day. And it may even be the first time that they have been arrested in their life. And it's a very traumatic experience. We're able to make a connection with them and to support them. And that we feel is really important. And we refer them if they need to go and desire to go for medicated assisted treatment. We can refer them for that. If they need to go to the hospital for what used to be called detox, we refer them, or to intensive outpatient. There's many different types of treatment. One of the most important things that we do is teach about the naloxone, which is the antidote to opioid overdose. Everybody leaves here with a kit of naloxone that we obtained from the Chicago Recovery Alliance, our partners, and also fentanyl test strips. We're able to train people on that so that, as we know, most of the overdoses are due to fentanyl. So I'd like Ann Brecky, our program director, to tell you more about what happens after people are diverted and referred.
Thanks, Julie. Many of you may know Thresholds as a 60+ year reputation working with people with serious mental illness. We're a little newer in the substance use treatment area. We do have a place located at Sacramento and Harrison, where we have an intensive outpatient program, regular outpatient. We have a recovery support team, and we have physicians a few times a week to help with medication-assisted treatment. I think what's also important to emphasize is that people come through and they meet Julie and they meet the counselors, and it's not over there. We sometimes will say to them, "We'll be stalking you," and they laugh, and we're like, "No, really, we'll be following up with you," and because we care and we want to make sure that they're doing okay. Sometimes things happen, the connection didn't take place, they didn't get to the hospital, they didn't get to treatment, maybe they changed their mind. That happens a lot. And I think we can all identify with that. And so we have a team that just follows up with them starting the next day after diversion. That's our recovery support team. What we found in our work on the West Side and with the diversion program is that people's needs are so great. It goes way beyond a substance use disorder. And even though somebody was just on the other side of the window having an interview with our counselor, they're talking to us about not being employed and not having stable living. And so we also have to consider that, and we try to support them in taking those new steps and just getting the assistance they need to start applying for housing, and somebody supporting them getting through the Social Security system, getting their IDs. So some real basic stuff. I think we can't talk about Thresholds program. We also have a substance use program on the South Side, but I think what's also really important is to mention the partnerships that we've made on the West Side. We're so lucky to be working with the West Side Opioid Task Force and Prevention Partnership, Lawndale Christian Health Center, Breakthrough, Above and Beyond. I know there's Fathers Who Care, where we've seen them a lot at street outreach. And so I think that has been kind of the richest experience, one of the richest experiences that Julie and I have had, getting to know the community. And we also have counselors now who are at the Legler Library Monday through Friday, 3:30 to 5. And we'll have people come in and maybe they want substance use treatment, maybe they want referral, find out about some housing. We'll do naloxone training with them, but those are Julie's counselors. So we really just feel that it's just important to make this a community effort. And I think that's what we've been proudest of.
Great. Ashna, do you want to talk through some of the results? I know we're really tight on time, so we'll be very, very brief, but we don't want to bury the lead and talk about the incredible results and the impact that we're seeing in the research.
Yeah, thanks everyone who went before me. I'm going to rush through these slides, but of course, happy to answer questions at the end. Just to introduce myself, I'm a research director at the Crime Lab, and I lead the research on this project. So just to give you guys some insights using the data, so 830 people have been diverted by police officers since the beginning of this program. This number alone makes this program the largest police-led diversion effort for narcotics possession in the United States. One thing we really wanted to check in the data was whether this program was just reaching casual drug users, but what we actually do find is that this program is reaching people that have used heroin for a long time. They've used heroin daily for a long time. So just the takeaway from this slide is that it's reaching a lot of people, and it's reaching a lot of people that can stand to benefit from substance use treatment. The next thing we wanted to check was whether people actually engage in the treatment. You might expect that a police officer connects you with treatment, but you don't actually come back and start treatment. But what we actually find is that 80% or 4 out of every 5 diverted individuals actually do come back and begin treatment. And then over half of them, 52%, actually remain engaged even 30 days out. To contextualize this a little bit, this actually looks very similar to the numbers for the walk-in individuals, those who self-select into treatment. So again, these are just positive findings that people are actually engaging with the treatment, even though, at the beginning of the day, they probably did not choose to self-select into treatment. We also wanted to share one participant quote with you all. And basically what this quote is reflecting is that substance use treatment is an ongoing process. It's something that people must engage with every day. It's not, a one-shot magic bullet. Sometimes you need multiple tries to get it right. And this program has really benefited from thoughtful leadership right at the top. And actually one of the changes that was made to this program was initially people were only eligible for diversion once, but now actually people can go through the diversion program several times and be connected with substance use treatment counselors several times, as long as they're eligible for diversion. And again, we just think it's because of people at the top who are really trying to be thoughtful about how to make this program as effective as possible. And then finally, we also want to ensure that public safety is maintained. And what we actually find, using our evaluation is that people who go through this program, people who are eligible for this program, are actually less likely to be rearrested once this program arrives in their district. So they are less likely to be rearrested for drug charges, and they're actually less likely to be rearrested for violent charges as well. So the overall takeaway from this program is that it's just reaching multiple goals at once. It's connecting individuals with serious substance use disorders with treatment. It's reducing the time officers spend on processing low-level drug offenses. And then it also appears to be improving public safety, not harming it, without incurring the costs of incarceration. So let me stop there, but of course, happy to answer questions at any point.
This is great, thank you. Board members, any questions?
I had a quick question. When you go citywide, how many slots will there be available? And if you know, how does that compare with the number of people arrested for drug offenses?
Thresholds, do you want to talk about your capacity, and given all the partners that you're bringing in, what the capacity is? Is there a constraint in terms of eligible?
No, there's no constraint. Typically, we are seeing the most activity in the 11th district. Some in 25, some 15. We were in 10 for a while, not as much. But yeah, there's no constraint. We're not competing for treatment or filling our slots. Some people don't want to come to thresholds, and that's okay. That our job is to help them get connected. It's not necessarily getting connected to thresholds. So yeah, we'll find other means for them.
And Ashna, do you know of the, oops, sorry, I just wanted to, the question about what percentage of arrestees are getting diverted. I think obviously we're looking at not all drug arrestees are eligible. So I think that we would probably have to get back to you with the exact number of people who are eligible who ultimately get diverted. And, we're working closely with Deputy Chief Rossetti to make sure that all officers are aware of this, and even building in some tools so that it's easier to make sure that someone who comes in is automatically flagged as eligible when they're eligible. So there are a bunch of things that we're doing to make it even easier for officers to be aware that the person they have is eligible, to increase the sort of diversion and deflection here.
Thank you.
That is part of my question. I wanted to know what has been the training or the orientation of officers that are citing who is eligible. What are they? How are they being prepared to make that determination?
Deputy Chief, you want to take that question and about the training? And then we can also just mention we are doing some qualitative work to really understand the experiences of officers, so that we can understand, if there's resistance or kind of how they're seeing this opportunity, so we can get some qualitative understanding of the implementation.
Yeah, I'm really happy to speak to this because I think it's kind of the neat way we were able to train on this, which is all partners here went into the roll call rooms. It's very difficult to just, talk and tell them this is the criteria. It really makes a difference, just like I hope everyone here is experiencing when you get a presentation and you're able to understand what this means and the role they as officers play. And so for us, we had members from our crisis intervention unit go in there to educate on the policy and procedure. But we believe really, I think what made a difference was having our partners there so that when officers were asking questions, they could be addressed in real time. That way they didn't walk out of there confused. Wonder a couple of days later with this matter, they had everybody's information and knew how to reach them and have those concerns addressed. And so I think it was threefold. It was speaking to the actual policy and procedure, but it was also getting the benefit of understanding, especially from our thresholds partners, what this program means and how it changes lives. And then, being able to understand what the implications of this can be. And I think that's where program evaluation comes in. I think we've done a really good job of following up and letting them know some of the data like you were presented here, and that they can see it does make a difference when they divert.
I might add that in the roll call trainings, which we enjoyed very much with the officers, and we are active in all of CPD districts now, some of the officers were saying that they would love to refer to our program, but they're not seeing as much heroin or cocaine in their district. They're seeing more methamphetamine and other drugs. And so once if the directive were to be changed to allow for us to see folks that have been brought in for other substances, then we will be seeing more in those districts as well.
I have a quick question. Have you been able to quantify what the cost savings have been for the city of Chicago with this program?
So I can take that. That's very much a work in progress. I think that's a question we hear very often, but we are trying to account for all sorts of costs. So costs saved in terms of people not going to jail, people not being rearrested and being processed in the future. We're also trying to look at overdose and like calls for service for very serious health events, but all of that is a work in progress currently. But it's definitely our top priority going forward.
This program sounds incredible. Deputy Chief, if there are other officers who want information, should they reach out to you to get a little more information if the program is not in their district per se? And if someone who hasn't been arrested, who's looking for help, where could they find out more information?
Great question. I think that's what we're hoping to get out of these presentations, is to spread the word. Anybody can walk into police district. At this point, it is in all 22 police districts. And so they can walk into the desk, and even if it is outside of the hours when a counselor is there, there is a phone number, and we are able to connect them so that thresholds can follow up. I think the aspect of refresher training is what's really important. Is all officers do have knowledge from the roll call trainings, but then we also educate on this in our CIT program, where we have a dedicated module on our deflection and diversion initiatives. So, in combination with that, we believe the refresher training is going to be able to help officers understand how the program's growing, and like we were just talking about, increased pathways for how they can get people directed to this counselor.
Wonderful. And we did have one question from a community member, Jennifer Edwards. Will you allow community members to participate in the training as such that happens with the domestic violence training?
So I assume that she means to learn about naloxone and how to help someone who might be in a state of overdose. If that's what she means, yes, we're very happy to help with that. People can call the number for thresholds for our narcotics arrest diversion program, and they could set something up for us. We can come on in, meet up with us at the Legler Library, Monday through Friday, 3:30 p.m. till 5, and we're happy to provide that training.
Can you provide the telephone number, please?
Yes, it's in that slide. If you want to bring the slide back up, it's on there. The phone number to our program is 773-241-0487.
Wonderful. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so
Really
much.
appreciate the work that you guys are doing. Thank you, CPD, for this program. We look forward to the updates. Jorge, we're going to make sure that we identify and we're able to quantify what that savings is. And overall, we want to make sure that we're saving some lives. So this is great information. Thank you very much. A report of disciplinary actions taken by the board during the previous month has been made available on the board's website. There are 2 police disciplinary cases on the agenda this evening. The police board, as authorized by the Open Meetings Act, has considered in a closed meeting 2 police disciplinary cases. The board will now take final action on these cases. Regarding case number 21-PB-2986, is there a motion to find Officer Luigi Sarli guilty of improperly discharging his firearm into a moving vehicle and to suspend him without pay for 2 years?
So moved, Paula Wolf.
Second, Michael Eady.
I will now call on members of the board for their votes. Wolf.
Aye.
Dooley.
Aye.
Eady.
Aye.
Montez.
Aye.
Zop.
Aye.
And I vote in favor of the motion. Voting in favor are board members Wolf, Dooley, Eady, Montez, Zop, and myself. The motion passes by a vote of 6-0. Board member Flores recused himself from the case pursuant to section 278130 of the Municipal Code of Chicago. Board members Block and Cusack, both of whom just recently joined the board, did not participate in this case. Is there a motion to adopt the written findings and decision that have been reviewed by all board members who participated in the case?
So moved, Paula Wolf.
Second, Michael Eady.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. Regarding case number 21-PB-2984, the superintendent filed charges against police officer Tristan Ilian, recommending that he be discharged from the Chicago Police Department for charges stemming from a domestic altercation while off duty. The superintendent subsequently moved to withdraw these charges because the parties agreed to settle the case and have the superintendent suspend the officer for 180 days. Is there a motion to approve the settlement agreement and grant the superintendent's motion?
So moved, Paula Wolf.
Second, Michael Eady.
I will now call on members of the board for their votes. Wolf.
Aye.
Dooley.
Aye.
Eady. Pastor Eady.
Aye.
Flores.
Aye.
Montez,
Aye.
Zop,
Aye.
and I vote in favor of the motion. Voting in favor are board members Wolf, Dooley, Edie, Flores, Montez, Zop, and myself. The motion passes by a vote of 7-0. Board members Block and Cusack, both of whom just recently joined the board, did not participate in this case. Is there a motion to adopt the written memorandum and order that has been reviewed by all board members who participated in the case?
So moved, Paula Wolf.
Second, Michael Eady.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. The written decisions in the cases on which the board took final action this evening will be entered as of today's date, sent to the parties, then posted on the board's website. There's one additional disciplinary matter on the agenda. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the police board has entered 2 general omnibus orders on conducting disciplinary hearings via two-way video conferencing using Zoom. Based on the recent record numbers of COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations due to the highly contagious Omicron variant of the disease, is there a motion to find that conducting hearings via Zoom is once again necessary to further an important public policy in many circumstances, and to adopt the draft of the 3rd General Omnibus Order that has been posted on the board's website?
Unfortunately, so moved, Paula Wolf.
Second, Michael Eady.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. A copy of this 3rd General Omnibus Order will be posted on the board's website. I'll now ask Superintendent Brown for your oral report.
Thank you, President Foreman. Good evening to the board. I want to thank all the members of the Chicago Police Board for their longstanding efforts. And I also want to thank all of the residents of the city of Chicago for working with our police officers, especially as we start this new year. And we all have a part to play in making our city safer, and you joining us today on this police board is an important part of that as well. Early in the new year, the Chicago Police Department's command staff met with Mayor Lori Lightfoot to discuss the past year, 2021, and our work and our strategy moving forward in 2022. This year, our goals for enhancing public safety are rooted in visibility, engagement, and collaboration across the board, as you saw with the example of the narcotics diversion program. We all know that tackling public safety is a complex issue, and it will take a comprehensive public health whole of government approach that pairs law enforcement and community engagement to offer important social and health services. Chicago Police Department is committed to growing community trust and will continue our effort in every single neighborhood. Last year, 2021, we had over 500,000 positive community interactions that we measured. We are striving to engage more and more people in the city. So our goal for 2022 is to engage 1.5 million people in positive interaction. We also have for the first time, a dedicated recruiting team as we continue to grow the number of applicants for our police academy. The dedicated recruiting team was stood up and started in earnest in June of 2021. And from June to the end of December, they were able to bring in over 7,200 applicants. For 2022, our goal is to bring in 14,000 applicants to be tested and vetted and hopefully be in our police academy. And just as we are investing time into the community and into growing the police force, we are also investing in the resources to ensure that our officers are at their best. So we are expanding the number of mental health clinicians to 22 clinicians, one for each of our police districts, to deal with our officers' wellness. In addition, we're opening 2 off-site locations for our officers to receive additional wellness services. And officers' wellness remains a high priority for me and our department. And the Chicago Police Department is doing the work necessary to transform our culture from the inside out as we continue to see progress on many recommendations from the consent decree. But our precision focus on taking down gang and narcotic criminal networks driving the violence in our city has not wavered and will not stop. We are also expanding our pod video cameras across the city, as well as our license plate reader technology across the city to deal with our carjacking. We are also improving our clearance rate for violent crime by increasing the number of homicide and violent crime unit detectives by 200 in the first quarter of this year. None of this would be possible without the ongoing work and unparalleled effort of the dedicated men and women of Chicago Police Department. Every day they live their oath. They not only serve and protect, they engage and inspire. They put duty above danger to keep all of us safe. In closing, may the good Lord bless the men and women of Chicago Police Department and keep them safe home to their parents, to their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Chief Kirsten.
Thank you, President Foreman and members of the board. I too, along with Superintendent Brown, want to welcome the new members. We appreciate your service and your diligence as you approach this critical and important work. I'll begin my remarks tonight just with sort of the report out from the month of December on behalf of the Civilian Office of Police Accountability. Just a little statistical snapshot. We took in 359 complaints and notifications last month. 81 of those were retained as being under COPA's jurisdiction to investigate further. Of that, we saw kind of the recurring trend where 53% of the cases that COPA retains as its jurisdiction remain allegations of Fourth Amendment or improper search or seizure allegations. So that continues to be the highest number or category of cases which we see in our office. In December, we received 4 different officer-involved shooting notifications. We also concluded 2 different officer-involved shooting investigations. Of all the cases that were closed, we had a sustained case rate of 43%. And we also had a video release under our transparency obligations in December as well, pertaining to an officer-involved shooting. Something that I think is rather important are just our continuing efforts with respect to our consent decree compliance progress. And in that vein, we have now taken down 15 different policies that are consent decree driven policies. And those policies were presented and kind of fine-tuned with our community working group. We then took their comments and their feedbacks and made that feedback and made it available on our website for the public and anyone to comment on. Took that feedback and now are in a position to finalize many additional policies. And some of them cover really critical areas like how COPA investigators go about investigating a sexual misconduct investigation, or how we live out our transparency initiatives, how we are supposed to conduct ourselves during compelled statements. So really critical work is kind of guided by these policies. And so I think it's important for the community to have a voice in how these policies impact the work that we do. And I'm looking forward to continued consent decree compliance for us as an agency when we hear of the independent monitoring team's next report later this spring. But lastly, I'd like to talk a little bit on kind of continuing on Superintendent's theme of these collaborative efforts. I really enjoyed getting to hear how the police department is sort of pace setting 2022, what your goals and your initiatives are. I think not just as someone leading COPA as the interim chief, but as a Chicagoan, I think we're all invested in the successes that I know your department is working steadfastly to achieve. Something that really jumped out at me, particularly with respect to Deputy Chief Ursetti's presentation, is just the collaboration and the innovation to have thresholds and U of C Crime Lab working to address a public health crisis that finds itself in the midst of our criminal justice system. Those are innovative things, and those are things that I think all residents of our city are excited to hear about. So I truly appreciated the opportunity to learn more about that program and look forward to its continued success. In that vein, something else that we're excited about at COPA is the launch in January of the city's mediation program. This is a pilot program that's really important. We've talked about it a little bit at prior police board meetings, but what's different and unique about this mediation program is it is an opportunity for complainants who make complaints about police interactions to sit down with that police officer, the same person that they had the issue with, and with a trained, objective, third-party facilitator, a mediator, to talk through that interaction, to learn one another's perspective, both for the officer to learn that of the civilian and the civilian to learn that of the officer. It is through those kinds of collaborative efforts that I think hopefully people can begin to understand a little bit about how these issues come to be, how these tensions continue to exist in our city. And certainly mediation can't solve all of the city's problems with respect to some of these issues of reform, but it is certainly a critical step forward, not just under the consent decree, but really under this idea that we want to understand one another better. We want to learn how to better support each other, both members of the community and the police department. So COPA is excited to work alongside our partners at the Bureau of Internal Affairs at CPD, Chief Talley in particular. We will be working together to identify cases in our respective jurisdictions that qualify for this pilot program. And I look forward to being able to come back and report out that successful mediations are occurring and that officers and civilians are reaching a new understanding of one another's perspectives. So thank you for the time today.
Thank you. That's great. I did have one question. You talked about over 50% of the cases being Fourth Amendment cases. Is there any interaction between COPA and CPD from a training perspective so we can see if these numbers can somehow try to go down?
Yes, I would say that under Deputy Chief Rossetti's leadership in particular, we have had significant outreach from the department about Fourth Amendment, well, just really training in general, but Fourth Amendment search warrant practices and a couple other things that we see anecdotally as being, you know, the data supports it as well, being higher levels of incidences. We've been able to kind of report back on that to the department. Something that hasn't yet come, I'd say, to full fruition, but I would like to talk further about how we could develop this would be utilizing some closed investigations as training examples, both of positive outcomes and potentially of things where there were missed opportunities or there could be improvement. So there'd be a lot to work through on how that would function, but I really would love to engage in further conversation about how COPA and the work that we do, how it can better inform the department. I know that's something that Superintendent Brown has also said, wanting to hear feedback from us so that we don't have to wait 2 years for an outcome, but we can say, hey, we're noticing this trend in this district. So we're working on ways to do that, to communicate that better and differently with the department.
Great, thank you. Before I move on, Inspector General, I saw you raise your hand. Was that intentional or?
No, that was an errant hand raise.
All right.
Yeah, but I have a quick question, if I may, again.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I was very excited to hear about the mediation that you talked about. How are the officers being orientated? Because they're key to that whole process. So what steps are being taken to get them to buy into that whole concept and that? Could you please help me?
Yes, so there will be continued outreach to both the union, particularly the FOP and PBA unions, to make sure that their members understand the process. By choosing to participate in this mediation process, it means the case itself is taken off of the disciplinary track. So that really is a big incentive for officer participation. When we approached this pilot, they looked at a lot of other jurisdictions across the country that did this. Some jurisdictions mandate participation. Chicago went a different route and it said, we really want people to choose to do this, officers to choose. But so in order to incentivize that, we had to say, okay, if you participate in a successful mediation, this won't be a disciplinary case on your record. It'll be a mediated situation. So that's sort of the incentive. I know that the third party the Center for Conflict Resolution, CCR, that's who's the administrator of the mediation program. They're working very directly with CPD on the best ways to message to officers. But, you know, hearing Deputy Chief Rossetti talk about roll call trainings and things of that nature, it will be programs similar to that sort of spread the word. I also think I really think you have to start at the recruit class level. We go into the academy every single session, whether it's a promotional class for a sergeant or a lieutenant or a new recruit class. We go in to sort of explain how our disciplinary system works. Mediation is now going to be a central part of that. So I've already extended the offer to CCR to kind of see how we've approached that and in ways in which we might partner and expand that presentation to include their important work as well.
Yeah, that at the academy, that's critical, key.
Any other questions, board members? Great, thank you very much. I will now call on members of the public who signed up in advance to speak. To make sure we have time to hear from all speakers, there's a 2-minute time limit on comments. Our first speaker, Corey Dooley. Corey Dooley. If you can unmute.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, yes. Thank you for the time here today. I'm Corey Dooley, a member of the Chicago Youth Council for Police Accountability. My colleagues, Griffin and Jock, usually sit on these calls, but I have the opportunity to sit on the call. I just wanted to remind you all of our mission statement. We are a newer group. And so I will read you all our mission statement. And so the mission of the Chicago Youth Council for Police Accountability is to spark a dialogue about policing issues in Chicago, to empower young people from across the city of Chicago to engage in the work of the Chicago Police Board and amplify young people's voices that have been historically underrepresented and underutilized. And so glad, like I said, to be able to get the opportunity to speak to you all today. We are planning a huge event, and I believe it's going to be on May 22nd as it stands now. We are still working through some things, but this is going to be a panel series. What we want to do is get different speakers from across the city and youth, and looking for individuals and also organizations that are involved around police work, whether this be the Chicago Police Department, the COPA, or whether it's the police board. And so we have reached out to a number of organizations and individuals. I'll put my email in the chat if you have anyone that you want to nominate, and we'll go through a process and see if they're eligible for that. We are also putting together a visual social media campaign. I know with the youth, we are very big on social media. And so we are putting together a social media campaign and looking to do some interviews. And really the end goal of this is to strengthen the relationship between the youth and the community and the different law enforcement agencies, like I said, whether that be the Chicago Police Department, COPA, or the police board. And so we were really excited to hear about the ordinance that passed in July, the Empowering Communities for Public Safety ordinance, which is going to create a new commission that will oversee CPD, COPA, and the police board. And this commission is the Community Commissions for Public Safety and Accountability. So thank you, Max, for sharing that. And what they've done is they've allotted 2 slots for youth ages 18 and 24 to apply. And so hopefully we can get some members on that council. So thank you to the city of Chicago and everyone that worked hard on that ordinance. As you all see, I think I'm the youngest person on this call. And so really doing my best to get younger people in these spaces. We're not radicalists. We just want youth to be involved, and we want our voices heard. So thank you all for your time today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you all's continued efforts and working with us, and glad to see that young people are part of the process, trying to make our public safety system a lot better. So we appreciate it. Our next speaker, Krista Noel. Ms. Noel, if you can unmute.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Thank you. Superintendent Brown, your decision in the firing of Bruce Diker is due within a few days. And I would like to ask you to find in Nikita Brown's favor and terminate Diker from the Chicago Police Department. He was a disgrace a long time ago. And after the attack on Nikita, he disgraced the department even more. May I say, historically, our racist laws have allowed police to beat Black people if they were out past curfew. At some point in time, Superintendent, we as a people have to make the decision that men putting their hands on women for no good reason is no longer acceptable. This man had no legal right to touch Nikita. And I need you to do the right thing and terminate Bruce Diker from the Chicago Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Matt Brandon. Mr. Brandon, Max, I don't remember what is it. Oh, he got it. Never mind. Mr.
Okay,
Brandon.
I got it now.
All right,
Yeah, I got it now, dear. Good evening, everybody. President Foreman, Superintendent Brown, members of the board. Happy New Year to everybody. You know, I want to speak tonight because community activists across the city watched as recent shootings in the Hyde Park community and around the University of Chicago campus caused politicians to jump in front of cameras and promise additional deployment of manpower and additional resources, technological resources to be implemented in the area to address the increased violence. Alderpersons held community meetings specific to that particular community while ignoring calls to meet from other surrounding communities who suffer increasing levels of violence every day. Calls to meet with police officials or to have police partners engage in community action must now be agreed to by politicians before being approved. For the record, when the districts call for their community partners to come out, we don't seek permission from politicians. All we ask is that you remember who your real partners are. We look forward to continuing to work with you in 2022, and everybody stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, Ms. Jennifer Edwards.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. We look forward to continuing our work on the South Side and organizing and connecting with our neighbors. We've been located specifically in the areas of Grand Crossing out to Roseland and Rosemore, east and west of the Dan Ryan corridor. We'd like to summarize our plans for 2022. We've consolidated several groups and nonprofits into Operation Neighborhood Safety and are scheduling alternate district walks between 3 and 6, gas station walks, resource walks, backyard conversations, business walks, and more in collaboration with CPD and the Cook County Sheriff, and doing more as we increase our numbers under the Operation Neighborhood Safety Collaborative. We work with our CPD partners in CAPS, DCOs, NPI project, and our data collection, which targets areas needing more community assistance. We're excited about including our groups that are actively engaging with the youth. We realize that everyone doesn't believe that policing is the answer, so we connect with groups involved with mental health solutions, formerly incarceration issues, health inequities, food inequities, and those who develop single issue projects. But we take a stance coming from multi-generational communities to collaborate with the police and take the middle ground. A lot depends on our continuing to partner with CPD and you working with us. You should be proud of the commanders, deputy chiefs, and officers that we've met and worked with in our areas. We like to think we've broken them in to our neighborhoods. When we call them, and we do often call them, they are always available, even though they are under pressure and often in low morale mode, but we support them and look forward to working with them in 2022. You are our CPD. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Next speaker, Dodd McCloggin. Max, what do we press for the unmute? Never mind, we got it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me? All right,
Yes.
perfect. My name's Dodd McColgan. I'm here again to speak about the case of Nikita Brown in support of what Krista had already mentioned, that, Bruce Diker needs to be fired. We're still waiting to hear the results of this decision on behalf of the superintendent. There's no, it has taken decades of fighting and work on behalf of women and so many other people to make it so things like what happened to Nikita Brown can't just happen. Any other decision than firing Bruce Diker in this case would be reversing that work. There's no world in which this man should get to keep his job after having assaulted her in that way. I was heartened to hear what people reported about people getting greater access to diversion, substance abuse treatment, and counseling. But it also remains that the situation of Treasure Hendricks, she didn't get, access to anything along those lines. And it seems that that case is being handled internally in a way where even the family doesn't seem to have answers about it. So that's another case in which I think should have greater attention from this body. And then I also want to speak to the case of Irene Chavez, who, died in CPD custody recently. I heard you mention about expanding pod cameras throughout the city, but it seems like police stations themselves are the Bermuda Triangle when it comes to recording and being able to hold people accountable for what happens there. And so we need more reporting about in-custody deaths as well. So that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Eric Russell. If you can unmute. Yeah, there you go.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Russell. I'm the executive director of the Tree of Life Justice League. We're National Police Accountability Advocates, headquartered here in Chicago. The first thing that I would like to say is that listening to Superintendent Brown, it is unfortunate that his meeting with the mayor this year did not result in his resignation or his termination. But moving forward, the reason that I chimed in, as President Foreman said, when we spoke briefly, it has been a while since I've come before the police board. We used to bring victims to do victim impact statements. With Chief Fairley, we were very hopeful, but with Chief Roberts, we just took a giant step back. And I want to share my optimism about the current interim chief, Chief Kirsten. And quite frankly, we look forward to at some point to Chief Kirsten being confirmed as the new chief of COPA. My comments are unsolicited, but what I do know is that given her integrity, for me and many police accountability advocates, real police reform, it has to start with transparency and accountability. So we count heavily on an independent investigative agency because we all know that the Chicago police is systemically corrupt and institutionally racist. And so before we even get to the judicial system, we count on leadership like someone like Chief Kirsten, someone that I am personally familiar with her work and who just absolutely understands it. Her background
Mr. Russell, Mr. Russell, wrap up. You're at 2 minutes.
Well, I would want to say in my 2 minutes is this. Thank God it's not often we're given the opportunity to applaud the appointment by the mayor. But this time, I'm so glad that the mayor deleted her ZipRecruiter app and recommended Chief Kirsten to head up COPA. I think the mayor got it right. And we look forward to her confirmation. And more importantly, we look forward to thorough independent investigations because quite frankly, some of these rogue and racist cops should be playing basketball in Pelican Bay.
All right, thank you much. Our final speaker is Mr. Robert Moore. Mr. Robert Moore, are you with us this evening? At this time, all members of the public who signed up to speak have been called. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move, Paul Wolf.
Second, Mike Weedy.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion passes and the meeting is adjourned. Good evening, everyone. Stay safe.